Good morning, children. How are you all? I hope you all are good and safe and might be enjoying your holidays in a very safe manner. Today, we are going to deal with the history from trade to territory. In the last class, we saw about the state government, how the state government is working in civics, and today in history, we are going to see about the trade and the territory. What are the British did, English did, everything we are going to see in this chapter. So in this chapter we are going to see how the political power of English East India Company has been grown. We'll understand the events and impact of Battle of Plassey and Buxar. We'll come to know about Carnatic Wars and Mysore Wars. To understand the growth of colonial army and civilian administration, this chapter will help you, and we'll also understand the principles of subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse. So let me read out the introduction part first. In the 15th century, Europe witnessed an era of geographical discoveries through land and sea routes. So in 15th century only, Europe discovered many land and sea routes to India. In 1948, Vasco da Gama of Portugal discovered a new sea route from Europe to India. So in the last chapter itself, we have seen about Vasco da Gama. He only found the new sea route to India. So in 1498, he is a Portugal person, right? So he discovered a new sea route. The main motive behind those discovery was to maximize profit through trade and establish political supremacy. So the main motive of them is to maximize their profit. They should increase their profit through trade. They want to do trade here and to establish political supremacy. So they want to become strengthen their army, and strengthen their powers to establish their political supremacy. Only they found new sea routes and all. The rule of East India Company in India became effective after the conquest of Bengal. So the rule of East India Company became very effective after the conquest of Bengal. The main interest of the company in India was territorial and commercial expansion. So the main interest is they have to expand them commercially. Territory wise also they need to be expanded. So this is the introduction part. Now we'll see establishment of political power by the English East India Company. The first is Battle of Plassey, 1757. Alivardi Khan, the Nawab of Bengal, died in 1756 and his grandson Sirajudullah ascended the throne of Bengal. So the Nawab Alivardi Khan, he is in Bengal. He died in the year 1756 and now his grandson Sirajudullah became the king. The British, taking advantage of the new Nawab's weakness and unpopularity power, so Sirajudullah decided to teach them a lesson by attacking over their political settlement of Calcutta. The Nawab captured their factory as Kazim Bazar on 20th June 1756. Fort William surrendered, but the Robert Clive recovered Calcutta. So now this grandson has taken the throne, right? So the British taking this as an advantage because a new king, he is not that much familiar. So they decided to capture that land. So this person, the Sirajudullah, wanted to teach a lesson for this English people. So what he did, he attacked the political settlement of Calcutta. So he was attacking Calcutta. On 9th February 1757, Treaty of Alinagar Wazan by Sirajudullah concealed Bengal and used it to strengthen its military force. The beginning of the British political sway over India may be traced from Battle of Plassey. It was the most decisive battle that marked the initiation of British rule in India for the next two centuries. So Battle of Plassey is considered to be the very important battle. Because of this only the British started to rule the country for next 2 centuries, because it happened during 1757. So 17th century it started. So 1819 till 19th century only we were under the rule of English people, right? British rule, right? So this seems to be a initiative thing. Next, we'll see about Carnatic Wars. In the 18th century, three Carnatic wars were fought between various Indian rulers, British and French East India Company on either side. So in the 18th century, three Carnatic wars. It was between various Indian rulers, British and French East India Company. Traditionally, Britain and France were rival countries in Europe. The rivalry continued in India over trade and territories. So already Britain and France were the competitive countries in Europe. So this competition continued in India also through trade and territories. They were occupying many territories, right? So this competition was created here also. It resulted in series of military conflicts in the south known as Carnatic Wars, which spanned from 1746 to 1763. So by this result, due to this only, the Carnatic Wars were started. Now we'll see first Carnatic War. On the outbreak of the Austrian War of the Succession in Europe, the English and the French were in opposite camps, increased the hostility between these two forces. The echo of this war was felt in India. So it has happened in Austria. Okay, Austrian War. The outbreak of the Austrian War only has been breaked out here. Okay, they had a issue in apart from our country, but as a result, they showed it in our country. Battle of Adayar. It was happened on 1746. The first Carnatic War is remembered from the Battle of Santom, which means in Madras, fought between the French forces and the forces of Anwaruddin, the Nawab of Carnatic, who appealed the British for help. So the first Carnatic War, it happened in Santom, where we have in Chennai, right? So fought between French forces and the forces of Anwaruddin. He is a Nawab of the Carnatic. A small French army under Captain Paradise defeated the strong Indian army under Mahfuz Khan at Santom on the bank of the river Adayar. So it was happened the bank of rivers of Adayar. Okay. Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. So after this war, they came to a treaty. They signed something. The war was ended by the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, which brought the Austrian War of Succession to an end. So Austrian War was happening outside India, but this Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle brought an end to the Battle of Adayar. Under the terms of this treaty, Madras were returned back to the English, and the French in turn got their territories in North America. So due to this result, that Madras was returned back to the English. So again, Madras was taken away by the English people, and French in turn got their territories in North America. They have got all the territories. We'll see the second Carnatic War. The main cause of this war was the issue of succession in Carnatic and Hyderabad. So it was happened due to the issue of succession, okay, in Carnatic and Hyderabad. So due to this, what happened, we'll see. Battle of Ambur. Finally, Dupleix, Chanda Sahib and Muzaffar Jang formed a grand alliance and defeated and killed Anwaruddin, the Nawab of Carnatic, on 3rd August 1749 in the Battle of Ambur. So in the Battle of Ambur, Dupleix and Chanda Sahib and Muzaffar Khan, they had a great alliance. They had a very good connection, and defeated and killed Anwaruddin. Okay, he is a Nawab of Carnatic on 3rd August 1714, because this one is the cause, right? Succession of Carnatic only was the cause for the second Carnatic War. So they killed. Muhammad Ali, the son of Anwaruddin, fled to Trichinopoly. Chanda Shahi became the Nawab of Carnatic and rewarded the French with a grant of 80 villages around Pondicherry. So Muhammad Ali, his father was killed now. So Muhammad Ali, the son, he fled to Trichinopoly. He flew away. He went to some other area, and now Chanda Shahi became the Nawab of Carnatic, and he rewarded the French nearly 80 villages around Pondicherry, okay, for helping him to become the Nawab. Now we'll see Battle of Arcot. In the meantime, Dupleix sent forces to besiege the fort of Trichy, where Muhammad Ali has taken shelter. So meantime, Dupleix, he has sent many forces to Trichy, where Muhammad Ali has taken shelter. The son, no, he has gone, no, he was fled to Trichinopoly, right, Trichy. So the Dupleix sent forces to take him. Chanda Sahib also joined with the French in their efforts to besiege Trichy. Robert Clive's proposal was accepted by the British Governor Saunders, and with only 200 English and 300 Indian soldiers, Clive was entrusted in the task of capturing Arcot. His attack proved successful. Robert Clive defeated the French at Arni and Kaveri Park. With the assistance of Lawrence, Chanda Sahib was killed in Trichy. Muhammad Ali was made the Nawab of Arcot under British protection. The French government recalled Dupleix to Paris. So Robert Clive, he was defeated. He defeated the French at Kaveri Pakam and Arni. These are the places in Tamil Nadu, right, near Vellore district only. So with the help of Lawrence, Chanda Sahib was killed in Trichy, and Muhammad Ali, the son of Anwaruddin, he was taken away. He went to Trichy, right? He was flew to Trichy, right? So he became the Nawab of Arcot under the British protection. Now we'll see the Pondicherry Treaty. Dupleix was succeeded by Godhue, who agreed the Treaty of Pondicherry. According to it, both the powers agreed not to interfere into the internal affairs of the native state. So it was brought to an end by the Treaty of Pondicherry. So by this treaty, they finalized that they should not interfere in internal affairs. So they should not interfere in their parties or their work. This person should not affect them. So a treaty was signed. Now we'll see about the Third Carnatic War. The outbreak of 7 Years' War in Europe led to the Third Carnatic War in India. So in Europe, the outbreak of 7 Years' War, it was outbreak here in India. By this time, Robert Clive established the British power in Bengal by the Battle of Plassey, which provided them with the necessary finance for Third Carnatic War. So by this time, during this 7 Years' War time, Robert Clive, he has established the British power in Bengal by the Battle of Plassey. Okay, we'll see how it came to an end. Treaty of Paris. The 7 Years' War was concluded by the Treaty of Paris. The French settlements, including Pondicherry, were given back to the French, but they were forbidden from fortifying those places. They were not allowed to gather armies. The French dominance in India practically came to an end. So the 7 Years' War came to an end by the Treaty of Paris. Okay, the French got Pondicherry as a settlement. Okay, so by this it came to an end. Now we'll see the Mysore and its resistance to British expansion. So how Mysore have come to their control, and how British expanded their states here. Okay, their power in our country. The state of Mysore rose to prominence in the politics of South India under the leadership of Hyder Ali. He and his son Tipu Sultan played a prominent role against the expansion of British Empire in India. Both of them faced an English with undoubted courage. In 1761, he became the ruler of Mysore. He also proved to be the most formidable enemy of the English in India. So Mysore, the state of Mysore, it became a very big, very powerful state under the leadership of Hyder Ali. So Hyder Ali and his son Tipu Sultan, they were against the British Empire. So both faced them with undoubted courage. They were very boldly facing the British people. So they were considered to be the enemy of the English in India. So we'll see about the first Anglo-Mysore War. Causes. Hyder Ali's growing power and his friendly relationship with the French become a matter of concern with the English East India Company. The Marathas, the Nizam and the English entered the Triple Alliance against Hyder Ali. So Hyder Ali, he was very much good in his power. He was keep on growing in his power, and he had a friendly relationship with the French people. So by this only he was attacking English East India Company. He was against East India Company. So now Marathas, Nizam and English, three of them entered. Okay, they both had a link and entered against Hyder Ali. Treaty of Madras. At the end of the war, the Treaty of Madras was signed between Hyder Ali and British East India Company. Both the parties returned to the conquered territories and promised to help each other in case of any foreign attack on them. So now Treaty of war has been started, so they now put a treaty. Okay, they signed something. So at the end of this war, this treaty of Madras, it was signed by Hyder Ali and the British East India Company. So what they promised is they can both the parties should return the conquered territories, and they should be helped each other. If any other foreigners attack them, means they have to help each other, mutual understanding. Okay, now we'll see about the second Anglo-Mysore War. The English did not fulfill the terms of Treaty of 1769 when Hyder's territories were attacked in 1771 by Marathas. Hyder did not get help from the British. So in the last treaty we have seen, Treaty of Madras, they have signed, no, if anyone attacks them, they will be helped. Both should help each other, right? But the English did not fulfill their promise. So when Hyder territories was attacked in 1771 by the Marathas, the Britishers did not help him in any way. British captured Mahé, a French settlement within Hyder Ali's jurisdiction. It led to the formation of alliance by Hyder with the Nizam and Marathas against the English in 1779. So this British, they captured Mahé, a French settlement within Hyder's jurisdiction. So it was under Hyder's jurisdiction, but they captured this. So now Hyder Ali, he formed an alliance with Nizam and Marathas, and he went against English. Now we'll see the Treaty of Mangalore. On 7th March 1784, the Treaty of Mangalore was signed between two parties. Both agreed to return the conquered territories and also the prisoners of war. So it happened in 1784, the Treaty of Mangalore. It was between two parties. They were agreed to return their territories and also the prisoners they got from the war. Okay, from when they participating in any war, when they conquering in any war, they'll take some prisoners, right? So this treaty, they said that they will return the prisoners also. Thus Warren Hastings saved the newly established British dominion from the wrath of powerful enemies like Marathas and Hyder Ali. When the British lost their colonies in America and elsewhere, Warren Hastings lost nothing in India. Instead, he consolidated the British power in India. So Warren Hastings saved the newly established British dominion. So by this, Warren Hastings, he established British dominion, which was against the which was against the anger of Marathas and Hyder Ali. Okay, so in British, the British, in America they lost many colonies, but in India they didn't lose anything because of this Warren Hastings, because he has many dominion, right? Now we'll see the third Anglo-Mysore War. Tipu was trying to seek alliance of foreign powers against the English, and so for that purpose he had sent his ambassadors to France and Turkey. The Tipu attacked Travancore in 1789, whose ruler was the ally to the British. So Tipu Sultan, he was trying to have a good relationship with foreign powers against the English. Okay, so for that purpose he has sent his ambassadors to France and Turkey. So he was attacked in Travancore, whose ruler was an ally of the British. So in Travancore, the ruler was a friend of British. So he was attacked. Tipu was attacked by him. Treaty of Srirangapatnam. Tipu surrendered half of his kingdom to the allies. Tipu agreed to pay 3.6 crores of rupees to the English as a war indemnity and surrendered 2 of his sons as hostages to the English. The English acquired Malabar, Coorg, Dindigul and Barmahal, Coimbatore and Salem. So after this fight, the Treaty of Srirangapatnam was signed. So in this, Tipu Sultan has surrendered half of his kingdom. So if he has 24, nearly 12 kingdoms has been surrendered to the allies. So also he was paying 3.6 crore of rupees as a fine penalty, and his 2 sons also was taken as hostages, like prisoners. The English acquired Malabar, Coorg, Dindigul, so all they have taken. Now we'll see about the fourth Mysore War. Tipu Sultan did not forget the humiliating Treaty of Srirangapatnam imposed upon him by Cornwallis in 1790. So he didn't forget all, because it's a very big embarrassment, right? He was humiliated. His sons were taken away. He has to pay many penalty, huge amount. So he also surrendered half of his kingdom. So that is all a very big embarrassment for him. So he didn't forget all this. So we'll see what he said. Causes: Tipu sought alliance with foreign powers against the English and sent ambassadors to Arabia, Turkey, Afghanistan and the French. So now also he is having an alliance, friendship with the foreign powers and against the English, and he was sending ambassadors to Arabia, Turkey, Afghanistan and the French. Tipu was in correspondence with Napoleon, who invaded Egypt at that time. So he was in a friendship with Napoleon, great Napoleon. He invaded Egypt at that time. The French officers came to Srirangapatnam, where they founded Jacobin Club and planted the Tree of Liberty. So now the French officers, they came to Srirangapatnam, where they founded Jacobin Club and planted the Treaty of Liberty. Now it has Mysore after the war. The English occupied Kanara, Coimbatore, Tarapuram and Srirangapatnam. Krishnaraja Odayar of the former Hindu royal family was brought to the throne. Tipu's family was sent to the fort of Vellore. So now after the war, Mysore has become in a good state. The English occupied Coimbatore, Tarapuram, Srirangapatnam, everything. Krishnaraja, he became the ruler of that place. Okay, already he was he was from royal family, and Tipu was sent to the fort of Vellore. So this is about the 4 Mysore wars. Now we'll see about the British administrative organization in India. So in the British Indian administration, we have 4. One is civil, army, police and judiciary. So the civil services, the term civil services were used for the first time by the English East India Company to distinguish its civilian employees from their military counterparts. So this civilian service, first time it is used to distinguish between civilian employees and military employees. Okay. The civil service was initially commercial in nature, but later it was transformed into public service. So in the starting it was like commercial, but later it was transformed into public services. Okay, this is about the civil. The Indian Civil Service Act of 1861, passed by the British Parliament, exclusively reserved and certain categories of high executive and judicial posts for the covenanted civil services, which was later designated as the Indian Civil Service. Due to the lowering of age limit and holding of examination in London, it could be possible only for a few wealthy Indians to appear at this ICS examination. So in the civil also, no, those of age limit and the holding of only for the wealthy Indians only they can apply for this, and they become the civil Indians. Now we'll see about the army. The army was a second important pillar of the British administration in India. So it is considered to be the very important thing in Indian administration. The East India Company started recruiting its own army, which came to be known as the Sepoy, from Sepoy or soldier army. The Sepoy army was trained and disciplined according to the European military standard and commanded by the European officials in the battlefield. So they were called as Sepoy. They were trained and disciplined according to the European military standards. The Europeans all know they have their own standards, own style. So according to that only they trained the Indian army people also. Army had a great contribution to the establishment and expansion of British rule in India. Indian soldiers were given less salaries and allowances than English soldiers. So obviously it would happen, right? So Indian soldiers, they were given less salaries and the allowance also very poor. But the British, they got good salary and good allowances. There some partiality. Now we'll see the police. When the East India Company took over the Diwani in 1765, the Mughal police system was under the control of Fajudas, who were in the charge of the sarkars or rural districts. So when the East India Company took over the Diwan in 1765, the Mughal police system was under the control of Fajudas. So Mughal also they had police system, it was under the control of Fajudas. Police system was created by Lord Cornwallis. He relieved the zamindars from police functions and established a regular police force in 1791. So before and all, the zamindars only they'll have some few police functions, and now it has been taken and they have a regular police force in the year 1791. Later, the district collector was entrusted with the task of controlling the police force in the districts. The main task of the police was to handle crime and to prevent conspiracy against the British rule. So, the district collector, he was given the task for controlling the police. Okay, he has control over the police. The main task of the police was to handle crime. Okay, wherever crime is happening, they have to handle it, they have to remove it, and to prevent conspiracy, to prevent some plans and plots which they put against Britishers. Okay, judicial system. An Indian Law Commission was established to compile the law. A law was established for the whole empire. According to the Indian High Court Act 1861, 3 high courts were set up in Calcutta, Bombay and Madras in place of the old Supreme Courts. So the Indian Law Commission was established many laws. Okay, so the rule of the law was established for the whole empire. So the whole empire should be benefited. According to this, 3 high courts were set up in Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. Now we'll see about the merits for the British. The British, due to this subsidiary alliance, the British company maintained a large army at the expense of Indian rulers. All Frenchmen in the service of native rulers were dismissed and the danger of French revival was completely eliminated. So the British they maintained a large army. This is a benefit of subsidiary alliance, and the native rulers were dismissed and the danger of French also was not there. The British company began to control the foreign policy of the princely states. So they began to control the foreign policy. Wellesley diplomacy made the British the paramount power in India. He transferred the British Empire in India into the British Empire of India. So Wellesley diplomacy made the British paramount power. So Wellesley, he is a very good, very great person. Because of him, the diplomacy made the British the paramount power, and so the British became the paramount power, very big power in India. So now we'll go to the conclusion. The Battle of Plassey was the foundation of British dominion in India. The company's administration was not for the interest of people. It was imperialistic, expansionist and exploitative. It brought more Indian territories under the British domain through the subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse. The policy led to the South Indian Rebellion, Vellore Rebellion and the Great Rebellion. So this Battle of Plassey, as we saw already in the starting of this lesson, Battle of Plassey, it happened in 1757. So this is the main gateway for the foundation of the British dominion in India. Okay, so it was imperialistic, it was like authoritative power. Okay, should all have its control, expansionist and exploitative. Okay, so because of this only many wars have started, many things were captured. Okay, many Indian rulers lost their power. So all these happened. So in this chapter we have seen all these children. So you'll get notes and assignments for this chapter 2. Thank you.